Welcome to Season 4 of the Knack for Business podcast.
Quick word from today's sponsor. You know that moment when something complicated finally clicks? That's what Fred Crouch does with real estate. His podcast, Property Wizard, from Gentry Learning, makes property wealth feel less like a mystery and more like a plan. Links in the show notes.
Question of the audience. Why are you working so hard but still missing real profit and time freedom? Our guest will break down how small business owners uncover the hidden profit already inside their business, using the 80-20 principle to cut noise and redesign their business around clarity, leadership, and life-first growth, not hustle. Our guest today is Musanga Mukwa. He's the best-selling author, entrepreneur, and trusted advisor to small business owners who want more profit, clarity, and control over their time. Drawing on an experience working with Fortune 500 companies and building his own ventures, Musango helps owners uncover the hidden profit already inside their businesses and step into the confident, values-driven leadership. His work and insights have been featured in Forbes, International Business Times, and the Chicago Tribune. Known for blending strategy with real-world honesty, Musango believes that the best business breakthroughs happen outside the boardroom, which is why he hosts intimate virtual wine conversations with small business owners, creating relaxed, meaningful discussions around blind spots, challenges, and opportunities. These conversations are shaping a curated mastermind for owners who want a business that doesn't just grow, but truly supports the life they want to live. Musango, welcome, sir. It's an absolute pleasure having you here today. Do you have a favorite or quote or saying you'd like to share with us?
Yes, Ernie, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Actually, I have a number of them, and the one that perhaps jumped on me is that complexity kills growth. So what I get from there is that you really ought to simplify your activity, to simplify your business, so that you can focus on what really matters.
And do you have a business tagline?
Yes, the tagline is design a business that supports your life. That's what I strive to do with my clients.
What showed you first that most businesses hide unused profit? And in fact, other than just, what showed you, but what is unused profit?
Yeah, what I've learned is that we actually sitting, the business owners, they're sitting on gold. And they don't always know that. So there are a number of leaks in their business, but really they cannot always figure it out. So let me explain that to you. So what you have is that you're talking about unused profit, huh? Unused profit. That's what you're talking about. Yes, yes. That's, let me tell you this. I remember sitting with the owner who had just posted his best revenue year ever, at least on paper. It looked like a win. But halfway through the conversation, he said, almost quietly said, I don't know why this feels heavy. So as we went through pricing, customer mix, customer structure, the issue became clear. Profit was not missing, but profit was trapped. That was the moment that I realized that most small business owners, they are not underperforming. They're actually underseeing. So I noticed that when you see capable owners working harder every year, but still they're feeling somewhat constrained, not freer, revenue is growing, but margin aren't. So time was shrinking, energy was draining. That's when it clicked. So issue is not effort, is not ambition. It was more the profit leaks that were buried inside pricing, structure, and decisions that no one actually was looking at it clearly.
So I guess working at Fortune 500 companies helps shape your knowledge base. And is it something that you learned in that space that you're now bringing out? Or is this something you had an epiphany? You worked in large corporations and now it's like I'm talking to small businesses and the light bulb came on about the unused profits that they're not realizing.
Yeah, Bernie, this is a great question. I spent my career in Fortune 500, senior level, global organization, and I learned a great deal. So, but what happens in those big organizations? We debate a single pricing decision, and we'll debate it for weeks, not because we were slow, but because we understood leverage. So later, working with small business owners, I saw the opposite. Fast decision, heroic effort, but totally no design whatsoever. So that contrast taught me that clarity actually beats hustle. no matter the size of the company. So in large organization, we learn to do intentional design. We learn that intentional design actually drives performance, pricing discipline, allocation of capital, clarity in decision. That was not optional. They were built in. So this is something that small business owners they could learn because they often rely on instinct and hustle instead. I realized that my role was really to translate big companies' clarity into owner scales decision without that bureaucracy. That's what I would say I learned from working with the Fortune 500 companies.
It almost sounds like what you've just described, and having worked in corporate myself, is you have a budget. And so, like, how much money you expect. And if you're running a new program, you do a business model. Like, what's it take to get there? What are your expected returns? How soon have you recouped your expenses, your capital expenses? So is it a matter of, because when you're acting fast, it's almost like if you're playing hockey, you're the goalie, you're going to block the puck coming at you. But to lead up to that point, it sounds like you have to have a framework built around having your defense and all that. I'm using a sports analogy, but from a business side, it's like got an idea, but now you gotta flesh out the rest of the details. Would that be fair enough to say?
Yeah. A big organization, obviously, you have their own bureaucracy, but one thing that is clear, maybe because they have the resources, is that quite often they take the time to define that clarity. And it's not like because you want to move fast that you should do it at the expense of clarity. In fact, I tend to think that if you have that clarity and you could move fast, actually you have the ability of creating momentum very quickly. So that's what I would say. You're right on point. That was a very great question, actually. Yes.
So when you're working with a small business, and obviously sometimes they won't have the large team. They might not have the fractional or the CFO, fractional CFO, CMO, marketing officer, and all those components. If someone says, "Listen, I make widgets, so now I want to make a blue widget," and it might appeal to this market space. So is there some way you can create a simulation to show results somewhat, to give you kind of a prediction?
Yeah, well, I encourage all the small business owners, if you have an idea of a new products, try to move quickly into what I would call a pilot, something that you can show people so that they can feel it. You can get the earlier feedback, because you want to make sure that that product and market fit is actually there, that whatever you're developing is providing value. So the sooner you can get that feedback, the better off you will be. So that part there is extremely important, because then you go get the feedback, you improve it, add some features. Perhaps you can learn some features actually they're not required, but you may also learn that some features maybe missing, or perhaps some of them who are there actually are the one providing value. So you go through this on, back, until now you say, yes, I have something here. So that experimentation, quote unquote, part is extremely important if you're coming with the new ideas, be it a product, be it a service, and so on. That's why sometimes people would see that, we have this beta project. We are running it as a beta. We're not going to charge you much, but actually it is for the purpose of getting feedback to then allow the company to refine it.
One of the things I've found, and again, I'm kind of looking back on my past corporate career, sometimes you had a product and the product all of a sudden is underperforming. The demand has waned for whatever reason. And not that the service you provide is wrong. How often do you revisit, like when you go, okay, I've got a product, I've made something special, I've got it up and running, I've got some good traction, revenue's coming in, but all of a sudden you notice the numbers are getting soft. How do you rework it so that change up the offering and make sure you're on track?
Yes. That is I think we ought to be reviewing our portfolio regularly. So just think of the 80-20 rule. 20% of the things are contributing to 80% of your revenue. So what are your top customers and what are your top products. So those top products, they could have been top at a particular time, but they may not last there forever. So you need to review that all the time. So if they are not no longer are being valued with the customer, then you need to understand why. Perhaps their desires have changed. Demographic could have changed. Maybe it was good back then when those guys they were younger. Now they're getting old. They don't need that anymore. So in that case, it could be either the product or you need now to look for another segment that that particular product could provide value. So you ought to be doing that with some frequency. Actually, your customers are the one really going to give you feedback. So you are serving donuts, and then you realize actually your customer are buying muffins instead. When your survey supposedly told you that donuts is the great things and so on. So it's really what the customer behavior is going to tell you. That's really what it is. The same for price, huh? So price is only, I like to say, price is only a hypothesis. So your data, your buying data is the one really going to dictate whether that price makes sense or not. So evaluation has to be a continual. That's really what I would say to that one. Yes, you're absolutely right.
So are there things that we do in business that, we feel, oh, that's really good. We're getting somewhere, but it's actually not, it's a drain on the real revenue. Have you identified anything that we do typically that, you should knock that off. You're not gaining ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you this story. You see, I was talking to you about this 80-20 principle. One of my biggest 80-20 breakthrough came from pricing. So for years, I was working, in the chemical industry. So we hesitated to raise price on one of our top-selling products. We kept telling ourselves, the market is too competitive. Customer won't pay more. So we kept the price steady, even though raw material costs were rising. So then one day I finally looked at the data, and it turned out that our top 20 customers, those who really truly value our reliability and the technical support we're providing, they were buying that product consistently, and not once had they pushed back on our value. So I realized then something important. We were pricing based on fear, not on value. So then we tested a modest price increase with our best customers. No big assignment, no big announcement, no emotion, just a clear, confident update. Not a single customer complained, not one. But here's the real power of that. Because those top customers generated most of our volume, that small increase had actually an outsized impact. Our margin improved immediately. Cash flow stabilized. And we finally had breathing room to invest in better service and production improvement. So that experience, Bernie, taught me this. If your best customers stay when you raise prices, you are probably undercharging all along. And if your worst customer leave, that's probably a blessing, not a loss. So people ought to be looking at that, So you have to compute the number. Like in this case, you increase the price. How many of them actually are staying? And how many of them are going to lose? So it may turn out that actually overall you're coming out really, really well in terms of your own profitability.
Sounds like a mindset situation. I've seen this happen before, and depending where decision makers are sitting, if they come in with a scarcity mindset, right? Everything is like, I got to make sure I have enough resources as opposed to venturing out. And conversely, be the other side of the fence where you're going, skip it. We'll just damn the torpedoes. We'll just rock and roll. And is equally as hazardous as being. Is there a kind of a perfect mindset that a person should have or a business should have in place for the leadership?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That mindset there, they're extremely important. But because we have sometimes hidden beliefs, every leader, would hit a wall from time to time. That is expected. Perhaps some people there are struggling to lead at scale, or motivate their team, or trying to convince others and whatnot. So then the tendency is obviously to focus on those external blockers, such as bureaucracy or employee attitude and so on. But that's really not what it is. So now those blockers, I believe they are sometimes so ingrained and habitual that most of us aren't even aware that they exist. But they're there. and quietly shaping every aspect of how we think, how we feel, And for example, some of the common misconception that I came across is if I grow, I'll lose control. Another one, people like me don't build wealth, or well, I must do everything by myself, or if I lose, I'm going to lose what matters. So those are limiting beliefs. And what I always tell the people, take those beliefs and reframe them into empowering beliefs. And then you'll see that your view now beginning to change, because we have those beliefs about pricing, about what customer will pay, about our own capacity, about who our best client could be, and so on. So if your business does not outgrow your belief about yourself, then it's very difficult even for you to go and scale, or to go after a big contract, or to go and increase price, and so on. So you really need to break that belief and then replace them by empowering beliefs. So that's what I would say. For example, one limiting belief could be, I can never succeed because I lack the skill. While an empowering belief could be, I can succeed because I'm resourceful and willing to learn. So once you make that shift, then it opens up a tremendous opportunity.
Oh, you also mentioned supporting your life, business supporting your life. And I think I think it's just more than, hi, I'm getting a salary or I'm getting a income from this. What else is behind that picture of business supporting your life really mean?
Yeah, supporting your life. I mean, what are the business owners that are looking for? They're looking for financial freedom. They're looking for financial independence, and also leaving a legacy and spending time with loved ones. So for me, the question that you put there, what does a business supporting your life really mean? For me, that question really became real when I realized that I'd built something that needed me constantly, but never gave me anything back. So a business that supports your life is one that funds your values instead of fighting them. So it gives you time to think, space to breathe, and energize you, and not just to help you survive. So to see that as a shift from being consumed by the business to being supported by it. I think that's the difference between success that looks good and success that actually feels right. So that's what I mean by business supporting your life. And that is possible. So if you go back to that 80-20 principle, focus on the 20%, but that means you have to let go some of the things that are in that 80%. So now you reclaim your time because you free yourself some of those things. You can focus now on what matters to you, which could be your customer, which could be your family for that matter, and the legacy you want to leave, and so on.
It almost sounds like, again, back to the structuring, like it's one thing to build a simulation or a model or a budget, but it also sounds like if you're a micromanager, you're never going to be happy. And so then if you're not micromanaging, but you want similar results, that means you have to have operating procedures, standard operating procedures. So are you suggesting then, as the business is evolving, right, and success is coming in, there's revenue coming in, that they should also plan to hand off elements of the work?
Yes, absolutely. What I'm suggesting is that two things. Number one, you need to reconnect with your purpose. So you need to revisit, why are you in this business? Why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you serving? And then the second component is that your business strategy. Redesign it so that you can focus on what is driving the revenue. But then you also need to sustain that win. You need to sustain that win in terms of building the leadership that you need. You need to put the right capabilities, and you need to review your relationship outside business and so on. So yes, that component is extremely important. Because you as a leader, leadership is not a solo venture. Leadership is in terms of bringing others along, develop them, so that's how you can actually strengthen the legacy you want to leave. It's not by going alone, but really in terms of building the overall capability within whatever your organization, however small it is.
So if a person catches on to this concept, the whole construct, 80-20, letting go, focus on things, what do they find happening in their life? What do the coworkers say or their colleagues say, and what do their families say? What's usually the feedback they'll notice as a shift in their environment?
That shift is tremendous, huh? And what I would say is that is the following, and maybe I can illustrate it much better with the story. So I had this client called John. John was a baker. And I'm sharing this story because that story really stayed with me. So on a Tuesday afternoon, John received a message from his wife. Are we still married? So that same day, his delivery boy quit, invoices piling up, invoices, cash flow drying up. And he find himself at 3 a.m. looking at the ceiling and wondering, how much longer can I survive this? Now, John was not failing. He was simply trapped in the same cycle many small business owners live in, working harder instead of working on the right things. He was not running a bakery, frankly. The bakery was running him. So when we started working together, we slowed everything down. We began with what I believe is the foundation of all transformation, your purpose. So we looked at clarity, with your identity as a leader. So I asked John, as I recall, John, why did you start this bakery? John paused for a moment and he said, to create joy, to serve my community, to build the life where work supports my family, not to take me away from them. I miss Johnny's baseball. I couldn't go to Kim's piano recital. So that purpose has always been there, but it was buried under exhaustion, under the complexity, this perceived complexity of the business and whatnot, the competition, the this and that. But once we uncovered that, energy changed. Now he reconnected with his wife. And suddenly he was no longer a baker. Now he became a creator. He became a community builder, a provider. So look, reconnecting to that purpose, in his case, unlocked that clarity. And then now we looked at the 80-20 rule. So we apply that. We find that 80% of his products generated 80% of his profit. His best customer never complained about price. His lowest profit item, they were demanding most of his time, and he was underpricing his signature item. So we simplify his menu, we focus on a high margin, raise prices where we needed to do, and we could put some retention system in place. And as the business now began to stabilize, John also stabilized. He slept again. He delegated without guilt. He reclaimed mornings with his family, because he had to reclaim his time. He walked into his bakery every morning with pride instead of fear. So he began to work less also, earn more, and finally he felt free. Now, within months, in his case, his hours dropped, his gross profit increased, his stress disappeared, his confidence returned, and he became the leader his business needed. Now, John did not just change who he was. John changed what he focused on. That's what I like to say. There is a hidden gold in your business. And there was a hidden gold in his business the whole time. He just needed clarity to see it. Now, this story matters to me because John's transformation happened not because of the numbers. That's why the story mattered to me, not because of numbers, although the numbers were great. Really because he got his life back. He reconnected with his family. He discovered joy in his work. He remembered who he was, frankly. That's actually why I do this, because I believe when a business owner transforms, family transforms, community transforms, and a legacy transforms. So business breakthrough, actually, they are life breakthrough, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I hope that illustration could give a sense to your audience about what I mean, and the types of work that I do with people.
Would it be fair to say then, subconsciously the person might recognize, they're spending too much time, and it's almost a slow spiral, but it's a downward spiral. They're not ascending; they're descending.
Yes. You're absolutely right. It's like this boat drifting away from the shore. It happens very slowly. It's happening very slowly. But in reality, that purpose, that drive, that passion they had is there, but it has been buried under the weight of all those challenges, So it's just a matter of sitting and trying to get back to it. And what I find is that once you get back to it, all of a sudden you reignite. You have more energy. You become more creative. You're beginning to see possibilities. That's what I find. You're absolutely right, Bernie.
When you've worked with people, how long does it usually take them to transform from oh my gosh to a relaxed sigh and everything is back on course? Is that like weeks, months, year, or what? What's the typical process?
Well, my program when I work with people is 12-month transformation. I like calling it transformation partnership. So this is a personalized 12-month strategic partnership for capable business owners, and it's not a short-term coaching, because I find that to really see the transformation, you need to spend that time. It's not in 1 month we can do this. Although I have modules where if somebody just want to focus on position market dominance, they need my support. We can tailor that. Or if they want just to focus on costs, we can work with them. If they want to focus on strategic alliances, we can focus on that. I have 22 strategies. But really, what I hope to do here is that by the end of that year, number one, they would have reignited with their purpose and having clarity. So they will reconnect with their authentic why. Any inner friction would have been resolved. And then number two, we will put in place strategy that will lead them to predictable revenue. So that's what it is. So that the business becomes more intentional and profitable. And then number three, that deals with the operation freedom and sustainable leadership. So that the owner can shift from being the center of everything to building system. So that's where we look. And then tangible financial impact. So they will unlock hidden profit. My clients, they have reported improvement in revenue ranging from 10 to 20% above what they have forecasted. And then finally is really to build a business that support their life. So that's what it is. So that it's no longer a business that is consuming them, but really a business that begins to support their life they always wanted to live, personally, professionally, and relationally. So that's what that's what I do, and that involve 3 private one-on-one coaching session per month, ongoing access to training video, workbooks, and so on. So they have their own client portal, clear accountability, and then we tell of strategy based on their business, but not just on template. So that's what I do. This was a great question.
Do you find that you work with other professionals so you have a client coming on your doorstep and say, "Listen, I need help. I'm all wound up and no place to go. I know there's gold here, but and they've heard you talk." Do you also involve then, let's say, an accountant, a lawyer, or if they're ordering product, someone does logistics, but experts that that you also fold that in to help, because if the person's trying to do it all, or a tech expert, right, like a CTO, chief technology officer, do you find you utilize or capitalize on fractional services around that person sometimes if they're in need?
Yes. The way I work, so I coach. So I like telling my client, I don't give you a fish, but I'll teach you how to fish. 75% is coaching, and maybe 20% also, 75% coaching, maybe 10 to 15% of training, and then the remaining consulting. If it's one area that I'm skilled, I can jump in. But there are instances where while we are working, where I bring in additional collaborator. For example, if I'm working with a client, which I did in the past, where it turned out that the messaging from their website or their marketing material is not really generating leads or converting, I should say, then in that case, maybe we need to redesign not only the message, which we can do, but then how to structure it on a website or marketing. In which case, then I look for partners who can then provide that support. So depending upon their needs, if it's something that they themselves are not able to do, or I'm not able to provide that specific specific support, then I draw from my own network of people. For example, one client, he wanted to see how they can use a sales navigator. Well, I'm not proficient to that. Well, I work with somebody from my network, and they spend time now with that individual to show them how actually they could exploit that. So those are the things. Or human resources issues, or, in terms of the types of insurance that as a small business they should look at. Well, I have a network of collaborators who can jump in and then provide them that support. Or taxes. You can really take advantage of some of the taxes loopholes that sometimes small business owners, they may not be aware. Well, I know people who they do that for a living. They're part of my network. Then I can bring them in. Yeah, so that's
that's excellent. So, are you a sommelier? Do you? Because I understand you have wine conversations, and what's the most revealing thing you've had out of some of your wine conversations? So, is there something that really stands out in your past conversations with clients?
Yes. Yeah, these are some of the things that I do. I did in the past, Bernie, which was just trying to bring a group of people so that we can talk about the challenges that they're experiencing, but also counting on the collective knowledge of peers. So creating that safe space where people what people can come and talk about their challenges without any judgment. That's a rule that I established. No judgment. We're just here to ask clarification, get the fellow to think. That's what we are doing here and whatnot. And what surprised me is that when you created that safe environment, really how quickly the armor comes off. People are, because initially people come very much guarded, talking numbers, market tactics, and so on and so on. But in that safe space, once we establish the rule and people understand what is the purpose here, then the real conversation emerges, and you'll hear, well, I don't know how long I can keep doing, things like this and so on. But what surprised me the most was not really the problems. It was more the relief people felt, realizing that they are not alone, that actually many of those challenges are common among the small business owners, but they did not have that interaction. So what I do is to provide that space where we have that interaction, in addition to the collective knowledge of the collective, the participants. I do a bit of coaching, and sometimes if I have some material that I have some expertise with, then I will share with the group as well. So that's how it's been going there. I'm hoping in February to relaunch it, actually, because I've not done this for a long time. I was doing it in person, but I want to try some experiment and create one, but over Zoom. So that's really what I'm hoping. I'm still trying to see how I can run it over Zoom rather than in person. And I'll be sending a number of invitation here, next month, trying to get 15, 20 people as a complimentary session, so that we can come on meeting there, and then the result of the discussion, actually, I'm hoping to use it in the future to create a mastermind program where then we can meet for a period of 6 months, that cohort, and then meeting twice a month for 6 months, and then another group, and so on. So that's what the idea is, Bernie.
Find that when you're working with a company and you've coached them, and you've had either a one-on-one or within a group, you also encourage them then to join networks. So they have a sense of what's happening outside of them. Not necessarily, if I'm a muffler shop, let's go find all the other muffler shops and what's happening. But let's say you're a muffler shop, you're a mortgage broker, you're a realtor, you're a tradesperson, right? Pick whatever trades. Do you find you encourage them to get involved in those type of spaces too, to keep on track?
Yeah. I encourage them. I'll say, hey, listen, I belong to this network group here. I think there are a number of good people there. It will be good for you to meet, to interact. And then I invite them as a guest. Then they participate on that session. And then if they feel like, hey, this is something that could benefit from them, then they could pay whatever due, and then attend those meetings and then develop contacts on their own. Yes, I certainly do that. That's what I do. Because in my work, apart from my coaching, those are the additional benefit people get. They will get access to expertise that within my own network that I could bring in to support them, but also I can introduce them maybe to specific people. So that's one. Number two, they get access to a library of training videos, workbooks, and so on. So those are the things that they do. And obviously, if there is a need for a particular aspect. For example, there was a young fellow that I was coaching, and they needed some support in terms of understanding basic of finances, fixed costs, variable costs, and so on. That's one area I'm very skilled at the teaching. Where I carved up a particular session that was not part of the overall coaching, but I carved out a particular session, and we just spent 2 sessions actually teaching them that, give them homework, practice, and so on, so that when he goes on the shop floor or talking to his own finance people, he can actually understand what they're talking about. And he told me that he became more confident as he's talking to those people. So those are the additional bonuses that people get when they're working with me. So that's really what it is. That's a great question.
Now, what questions should every owner ask on a weekly basis? What should they be mindful of?
Well, I think the question that they should be really asking is the following: is this business still serving the life I'm trying to build, or am I serving it? So I think that one question really cuts through the noise, cuts through the busyness and habit. It forces clarity. Clarity more than motivation. Actually, clarity is really what changes the trajectory of both the business and the person who's building it. So that's a question that I would tell the people to really do that. In fact, this morning I was at a networking session, and one gentleman there encouraged us this week to ask ourselves the question: each time there is a request, to say, does this thing really move the needle, either for a business or for the life I would like to have? So which turns out actually to my question. So I was very pleased that this fellow put that question there.
So if someone is looking to budget for your help, what ballpark should they be looking at?
Well, it depends. If they're going to do a one-on-one session, my program is 36,000 for the full year, which they could pay 3,000. They have the ability of dropping if they feel it's not helping them. So if they pay it in full, then it's 30,000. And also what some people opt for is not the full program, but they want something specific, which we can tailor that. They could say, well, I don't need the whole program, but I'm really looking for your support on helping me in the position of market dominance. Okay, fine. So that 3 months, we can organize a module around it and do that. So, but so far, many of the people that I'm currently working with, they took the 1-year program. They thought that benefited them a great deal, which I'm very thankful, because it really is what I'm trying to achieve. Because you see, Bernie, what is unique with my way of approaching is that it's really about integrating all aspects of life. We're not just looking for you achieving the number. It's a physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, into somewhat of holistic framework. Because I believe that the true success is not just about hitting the financial target or gaining market share, but it's really about creating extraordinary results that also improve the quality of life for you and for those around you. So when I work with clients, I focus on building that deep emotional and spiritual connection between them and their work. I found that when business owners truly connect with the spirit of their business and their team, it opens up the potential for incredible performance and meaningful change. This connection is actually crucial, because that's the one that drives motivation and passion, which in turn can then become the real engines of any successful business. So I'm very grateful that many people have subscribed to my to my full program, and I've seen the transformation. I gave you the example of John the baker there, and this has been really something that gave me lots of pleasure, because in the case of John, he was near bankruptcy. We were able to do that, and in the process, he was able to save his marriage as well. Very happy to.
I think John's happy too.
That's the kind of transformation that I look to see. That's what really gives me pleasure, despite the numbers and so on.
So do you just service the continental U.S., North America, or are you global? Like, how far do you provide this support?
Well, on Zoom today, everywhere. Currently, I'm working with a client actually out of India. I have a client, from Canada. The rest of the people, they are here in the U.S. But no, it's global. Today with Zoom, it's possible. There was one lady there, a prospect from Australia. The logistic was a bit difficult as we were trying to set when we can have a conversation. So we'll see how that will go, because the timing is a bit difficult. Either she has to stay there really late at night, or 1 a.m., or have to do that. So we're going to see whether one of us can manage that level of energy that late. So we'll see. But with Zoom, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
And do you have a resource that's available for people they can tap into? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. There is one resource there, a small brochure, which is that will help them to see and understand those leaks that they may have in their business. So that's really it's a resource that I encourage your audience to look. It's complimentary. They can just download and look at that. And if they want to have a further conversation with me, I'd love to continue the conversation. And for your audience there, small business owners who have maybe 5 employees to 12 employees or so, will be interested in attending my complimentary wine chat over Zoom. We'll see how that will work. The wine will be on me, so this is complimentary, to have that gathering of small business owners to discuss the challenges. If they can come, they can be in a hot seat and talk about what they're struggling with, and then I'll facilitate the conversation there. To be no judgment, so we'll create that safe and confidential space so that the people, they can feel safe to come there, talk about some of the things they're struggling with.
How can folks reach you?
Well, people can reach me over LinkedIn, Mosango Mukwa on LinkedIn. So that's one way of reaching me there. So connect with me. You can also connect with me via my website, Mosango Mukwa, all in one word, .coach. So that is really the best way to reach me there. But for your audience who are looking there, who will be interested in this complimentary wine conversation, by all means, reach out to me. Mention that you came to me via Bernie here, the K4B podcast, and I'd love for you to join us and see the spirit in which we're trying to create those conversations.
Mosango, I want to say thank you so much for sharing today. And there is a way to regain your life. If you enjoyed the show, this is awesome. After seeing many founders succeed on paper but struggle in real life, that's kind of a key thing that Mosango helps address, right? It's not all about hustle. It's about clarity and enjoying your life, enjoying the things you want to do. Honest conversations, not a guilt trip, and it's your success. And then it all is well, and we can all prosper.
Everything you heard today is for educational purposes only. It's not professional advice. Before you act on anything, talk to a certified expert in your area. Your accountant, your lawyer, someone who knows your situation. We share perspectives. You make the decisions. Want more? Head over to blog.knack4business.com, packed with practical episodes on AI, marketing, leadership, and growth. No fluff, just the good stuff. Subscribe while you're there. Until next time, keep building.